Cool.
Welcome to Creative Cabin Fever. On this installment, I talked to my old friend Niegel Hegarty. He's a really interesting character. I believe he might be Letterkenny's answer to Becca, actually, because not only is he in a band, unlike me, but he also runs a promotional company up there, and there's a lot of excitement around that. He also has this fantastic idea that I can't wait to talk to you and tell everyone about, really, because he did this EP, 4 days, 4 songs for Pieta House, and that's just fantastic, like, to be raising money for such a good cause and to be doing it in such an original way. So Niegel, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Nigel. I am the Letterkenny Becca, apparently. That's about all. That's my introduction. That's all I can do for you.
So what's life in lockdown been like for you, Niegel?
It's been interesting, to say the least. I think it started a little bit strange because I've 2 kids and taking them out of school and all this sort of stuff. So it was a big kind of upheaval then. My partner working from home after, being used to being away early in the morning, home late in the evening, and even I suppose giving up work as well has been a strange thing. So readjusting to life here, but I think after 7, 8 weeks now, I think it is, that I've been home since finishing work. I've adjusted to it all right, and the kids have adjusted to it, and sure, it's like summer now. Well, it is summer now, so we're all good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a struggle with kids and not having a job anymore. Like, I really miss the social interaction and the leaving of the house. I'm lucky enough that there's kind of a balance between when I have my son and when I can work. So I've at least got that still going for me. But I didn't at first. The first 3 weeks I had him myself. So it was a lot more difficult to get the interviews done. But yeah, it is difficult with a family and, like, obviously all these projects that you work on yourself from home, because you've basically got a little studio there and you're able to still work and create, which is fantastic.
Well, yeah, I guess that was a small upheaval in the house as well. Having to kind of set up my studio in the spare room here, because I kind of count my blessings in a way that I was really lucky that it was the week before it was sort of the coronavirus. I suppose it was already kind of existent, but we didn't know the extent of it before any lockdowns or restrictions. It was the week before that I had met and prepared to sign documents, prepared to get everything set up for a studio and rehearsal studio in Letterkenny. And I talked to the guy. I viewed he had 2 offices spaces in the one building, and I was sitting there going, right, give me a week to figure this out. Give me a week just to decide which one I want. I'm pretty sure I know I want this one, but this one's still in my mind. Give me a week to just kind of figure it out. And he was like, yeah, no, take your time, whatever. And it was 6 or 7 days later. It was all like restrictions on movement, and everyone. And I rang him. I was like, look, I'm obviously not going to be able to take this right now, but let's look at it again in future. And he was like, look, there's no panic. He says, nobody else is going to at this stage, so let's look at it again in a few months. So took everything home, and I have everything set up here now to a minor specification, if you like, as good as I can get in a small house that I'm working on. Well, I'm working on Kessler Effect EP. I done my lockdown EP, as you mentioned. I've done a track, an EP for a band called the Tearaways in Inishowen, good friends of mine. They're a family band as well, so that's really cool. And I'm working on an EP for another guy in Letterkenny, Finney O'Donnell, who I also do pub music with. So I'm kept busy enough with stuff, but it's still kind of tough doing it at home where you have too much chance to kind of go, look, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to go and watch TV or something instead of getting down to work and getting stuff finished.
But we have all the time in the world, Niegel, so it's no panic. It's like time has completely stopped having meaning. So basically all these things we have planned, they can actually take longer than usual, because it's okay for us to take a break. Tomorrow, for instance, I'm going to do nothing.
I know well, because I guess, especially with the Kessler Effect EP, it's something that's been about 4 months in the progress now. It's a month. It was last night that I opened one of the tracks for the first time in 4 weeks. with like everything, it's near enough completed with some keyboards and stuff to throw onto it. And I says, I'm going to take a month of a break from this, come back to it with a fresh set of ears and see where I'm at with everything. So I do like to take breaks from recordings. Sometimes people aren't too keen on that sort of thing, especially, someone on a kind of a short time scale want to say, I want to record this EP now and I want it out next month. I kind of like to say, right, give me 6 months before the day that we record it to the day you release it. So I want 2 months there, a week of recording, but I want a month to get a bit of mixing done, come back to it, get a bit of mixing done, come back to it, and sound fresh all the time. So you're not just listening to the same thing over and over and over again, because it becomes dull to you after a while, that it's just, this mix sounds good, but you might listen to it a couple of weeks later and think, that's not what I want it to be. So it's nice to take a break from things once in a while, and especially I do have those days as well where I like to sit around and my feet up on the sofa and relax, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think it's my first day off in 9 weeks.
It's yeah. I haven't like, apart from my studio stuff, I haven't. I think it's actually 8 weeks tomorrow that I done my last day in work in the pub in Letterkenny, because I work about 4 mornings a week in Letterkenny in a pub at the Central in the main street, Letterkenny. Brilliant pub where we run our disturbance out of as well. So I work about 4 days a week out of there, and I remember going in on this. It was the Sunday before Paddy's Day, and we had taken in a huge order of beers and kegs, an absolutely massive order of stuff for the Paddy's week. And the what do you call it, the horse racing festival, Cheltenham, was a week before, so there was another huge week in the pub. So there was like 2 massive supplies of beer, which runs out very, very quickly in kegs. So I really feel sorry for Mark and everyone at the Central for the amount of beer that's going to be wasted from that. Because I remember going in on the Sunday, as I said, and saying to him, what do you think? Are you going to stay open? Are you going to try and push it? Because at that stage, those pubs saying, we're going to push this as long as we can. We're going to try and stay open as long as we can. But the I said to him, I was like, what do you think? And he's like, I really, we're probably closing tomorrow. And I was like, all right, well, there you go. And sure enough, it was the Monday that was the last day for the pubs. And since then, I think to myself, should I go in there someday and say, can I have some of that beer that's going to waste? And other parts of me is going, I feel really sorry for him for the amount of beer that is being wasted. Not in an alcoholic way, as I open a can, in a more like, just feel sorry for businesses that are really struggling through this.
Yeah, no, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, everyone is so struggling with this. Like, it's just a really, really bad buzz for everyone. Nobody's kind of doing better than anyone else. Everyone's in this strange time where everything just doesn't make sense anymore. Everything is just bizarre and strange, and everyone is genuinely struggling. But you're right, I hadn't thought about all the kegs. I haven't thought about kegs in a very long time, actually, Nigel, because I've been sober a year.
Yeah, look, it's I do feel sorry, like, as I said, being so close to being open in my own business in town, I'm really thankful that I didn't have to pay out 8 weeks of rent on a building that I wasn't using, electricity, all the costs that are involved with it, your council rates and all this sort of stuff. I feel sorry for the smaller businesses that are really, really struggling through this. There's bigger businesses that might have reserves. Look, it's not going to be ideal for them, but they'll get through it. But especially the smaller businesses, they must be just devastated at the minute. Like, and the kegs, those poor kegs are going to waste. Imagine all the beer being run down the drain.
Yeah, it might be an idea for you to contact him after this and just say, do you want to throw me a keg or two, and just have a kegger, like, go old school on this, see what you create out of it.
Yeah. Sure, look, there's plans down the line. I might give him a message some of these days about any spare kegs of Guinness there,
Obviously, captivity hasn't stopped you from being creative. So talk to me about the Lockdown EP and how that came about as an idea, and what your aspirations or how you see it going? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just I take notions to do things on a whim. The letter Kenny Becca does it. I like as you alluded to, I done an EP in 2017, I think it was, for Pieta House. It was I was living in Carlow, between Carlow and Kilkenny, in 2015, 2016, and kind of my music at home stopped at that stage because obviously I was living so far away from everyone. So I just started messing around with ideas and recording different songs while I was down there, and it threw them all together. And it was the summer of 2016 that I put together the EP. That was released in native Pieta House, because it was kind of a weird time for me. I was a bit down about being away from home, being away from my friends. So it was nice to do something, and there was a big campaign at the time to get a Pieta House set up in Letterkenny because there was just no services up here for anyone. And I released that EP at the time and decided again, and when the lockdown happened, why don't I do something like that again? So I didn't want to go with any sort of major charity, I suppose, at the time. Thought to myself,
Don't worry, so the internet keeps going on, Nigel, but that's okay. I'm trying to just be calm about it. I can see a little red thing at the bottom, and I'm like,
I can see
I'm
little
just gonna
red
let
dots
him
on your.
talk, Yeah, so you didn't want to pick a big charity like Pieta House, but in the end you ended up going that way, is what I gathered you were saying.
Yeah, no, as I said, I done the last EP in native Pieta House, and this time I didn't want something major again. I wanted something a bit more close to home. So I think there's some very good friends of mine, I'll say, is involved in a local charity for people who struggle with miscarriages, IVF, infertility, this sort of thing. And they're a support group known as Roses and Rainbows. So I decided this time they're trying to set up group meetings, meditation settings, these sort of things. And I said I wanted to support that. I wanted to give something back to them, because especially people that are going through IVF can spend 5-10 grand to go on it. And it's huge money for something like that some of us might take for granted. Like, I said, I have two kids here, and I didn't have to spend 10 grand to have that. And it devastates me that people have to go through that sort of thing. So I wanted to give back something that would help support that. And I chose that because at the end of the day, a punk EP is not something major charities want to sponsor, or not sponsor, but want to get behind, because elaborate lyrics, we'll call them, might not be to the taste of their members. So I decided I would go with something a bit more close to home, and I'd give a shout to a nice local support group that really need the money behind them.
That's really, really beautiful. Like, that's truly beautiful. And that even there is an organization like that to help people who are struggling with those things, because miscarriages are not talked about enough in Ireland. People don't talk about the struggles of fertility and stuff like that. And so many people, like 1 in 4 women will undergo like a miscarriage. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's insane, and nobody talks about it. It's like the secret that nobody's allowed to talk about. So that's beautiful that there's actually a charity there to help with mindfulness and a place for them to meet and have a sense of community around this perceived shame that we have societally, and that you're able to help that, and that there's funding in place and really good people, obviously, who have the right ideas, and people like you who see what they're doing and want to support it. I think that's absolutely beautiful. So well done.
Well, look, it's Ireland, isn't it? It's another taboo subject. People don't want to talk about what they've been through, and this is a major thing for a lot of young couples, especially, that want to have children. It's awful what they have to go through, and anything that can be done to help them in some small way, whether it is just a small support group, or meditation, mindfulness, these sort of things. It is really appreciated in the long run, and I like to just kind of give my little bit to them just to help them through.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's amazing. So you're working on the Kessler Effect EP at the same time. How's that going? How's the change of plan with that? Obviously, you said you've only been touching some of them lately and you're kind of trying to give them a bit of breathing space. And you can. This is the perfect time to do that. But are you excited? Is there going to be a lot of changes? Because obviously now Iron Mountain is gone. There's loads of things gone. But like, I don't know. Talk to me about how you feel about all this.
Yeah, it's been strange because we had a good year last year, on the back of, like, we took about, I think it was 4 or 5 years out of playing as a band, between me going to Carlow, between band members leaving and emigrating and going back to college and whatnot. We got back and recorded our EP in the end of 2018 and set out and says 2019 we'll do 6 or 7 gigs around the country, just kind of ease ourselves back into it, build a bit of a fan base again, and go at it again in 2020. So we played around, I think it was about 6 or 7 different gigs around the country in 2019, and we got an offer then to support, pretty much one of the biggest prog bands in Ireland at the minute, and So I Watch You From Afar. We got a chance to support them in Derry at the start of the year. Oh, I'm going again, am I?
Don't worry about it. I'm going to see the red and I'm going to talk over you. So just trust me. I was about to say they're one of the best bands out there at the moment. Loads of people are touring with them. By Curious really helped in that leg of the show. See, that was my plan. So whenever you see that you can't see yourself, we're just going to go that way. And everyone at home now is going to know my secrets, but that's okay. So yeah, and So I Watch You From Afar are incredible. And that is a huge privilege to play with them. So that must have felt like a woo, we're back.
Yeah, it was a big boost to us to open 2020, which we had planned to be a big year for us. The new EP, we had planned 2 EPs this year. The songs are there; they're ready to go. So we had opened up with a bit of a bang and played along with them in Derry, which was a brilliant show, and a big shout to Kieran and Music Capital up there for putting that together, which was fantastic, and a beautiful venue as well in the Glassworks. So it was a nice start to the year. We says then April was our time to release the first EP for the year, and then hopefully another one for July or August, and kind of push ourselves for the year and see how we got on. And then February came and March came and the coronavirus hit, and we were like, oh geez, what are we going to do now? So we kind of took the idea of saying, let's record our own bits. So obviously I have my own setup that I was able to record, but we luckily, just before the lockdown hit, took 2 days to record the drums with our drummer. So very, very good timing to get that done. 2 days, got the 4 tracks done for that. Big up Ben, well done. We got home then, and my bass player Michael, he's never done a bit of recording before with his own equipment. He got his own equipment, plugged his bass in, and taught himself how to do a basic recording in a handful of days. And he sent on bass tracks, and they sound grand. It's perfect. Paul has done his own bit of recording before on guitars and keyboards, so he was able to send me on some stuff, and we were able to piece together the recordings that way. And obviously I do all the rest in the house. Then I do all the vocals, I do extra guitars, I do whatever bits of little fiddling about that I need to do. And we had planned, I think it was the 19th of April was the initial release date. And it was obviously never publicized or anything like that there, but that's the goal we had set ourselves. But then everything came its own way. It's still going. We took a break from it there for the last month to kind of refresh ourselves, get the fresh ears, and get ourselves back on track. Paul's doing his own keyboard bits now. Paul's just a phenomenal keyboard player. He's phenomenal piano player, so it comes natural to him just to be able to throw extra stuff on when he needs to do that. So he's working away on that at the minute. Should have some stuff in the next week that I can throw on to finish the recordings, get it sent off for mastering, and midsummer we'll have a release. Obviously, there's going to be no launch per se, because I don't see any music till September, October time at the earliest. So if in 2020 at all. So it's going to be an online release. Possibly if we can get together and do a live video at some stage, that'd be cool. But at this stage, you got to just kind of go on ahead with it and release it, because there's nothing left to do otherwise.
Yeah, no, it's a very stressful time for everyone. And then people are worried if we're all releasing at the same time, what's going to get lost? There's a lot of people, all these releases that are kind of being forced out when they shouldn't be, maybe. Sometimes it might be better to sit on it, and it's a really hard decision to make. But it looks like the universe is on your side with this one, because you had the drum tracks down and everything else just kind of went to plan, and everyone's ingenuity kind of brought it together. So you're probably completely right in following whatever path is being thrown at you, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's lucky in a way that things just kind of fell into place with the drum recordings the week before everything happened, or 2 weeks before everything happened, or whatever it was. It was the start of March anyway that we got the drums recorded. It was a bit crazy, like, at the time, and we as I said, we had planned to everything released pretty quickly. I planned to get it all pretty quickly, get it all out there pretty quick. But I suppose it worked out in a way that I have more time to sit down with it now and really get it together. And hopefully then, whenever the lockdown ends, whenever restrictions are ended, we can just get back into studio work again and get the next EP recorded as well, and just get it ready to release in a few months' time. So fingers crossed, etc.
Fingers crossed. Now, obviously, I find your neck of the woods fascinating with your beautiful accents and your incredible talents. Like, who else should I be listening to? Because there's just so much up your way,
We are really, really lucky up here. Not even just Donegal, but the whole Northwest in general is just tipping over with talent. It's crazy. I've never seen, like, since we started doing our disturbance work up here 3 years ago last February. The amount of bands we're coming across, the amount of young talent coming through, even kids that are still in school that are playing music, is just, it's phenomenal at the minute. You have the likes of the 3 girls from Derry, Charon, that are flying at the minute. They are fantastic. You have Blackbird and Crow in Donegal. You have Owlboy from Ramelton. You have Fierce Pit Bosses. You have Sheer Buzz that are getting phenomenal amounts of plays on Spotify. You have Happy Out. You have it just go on, and there are thousands. Mark Black, people that have been going for years as well, that are still at the top of their game. We're blessed with the amount of talent up here at the minute, and we're kind of blessed at Disturbance as well to be able to put on shows for these people, because for the amount of talent that's up here, the amount of venues that's willing to put on original music is at a premium. We have ourselves at number 58. You have the Balor in Ballard Buffet, Balor Theatre in Ballard Buffet. It's a beautiful theatre that puts on an original music night once a month. The Ghostlight Sessions with Dean Maywood. He's doing a phenomenal job there as well. But apart from that, you have the big theatre in Letterkenny, Gone Green Theatre, and you have the Regional Culture Centre in Letterkenny as well. But they're more targeted towards theatre productions than live music. But there's some serious live music going on there, and Distorted Perspectives with Jeremy at the Regional Culture Centre has been a revelation in the town for years as well. But it's strange in a way that the scene in Donegal is bursting with talent, but it's not hitting the national airwaves that it should be, because, as I said, some of the music that's coming out of it is absolutely incredible, and it's fantastic. We're in a golden generation, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what's going to come out of this again is going to be even more special. So I'm proper looking forward to the after lockdown sessions. You know what I mean? When people have been so locked up and cooped up that all this beautiful magic is just spewing out of them, and they have to put it down somewhere, and it's going to be beautiful. It might be messy, but it might be beautiful. I'm hoping for beautiful. So you're talking about Disturbance and the gigs you do. So tell me a few of your favorite gigs that have happened while you were doing promotion yourself.
Oh God. We'll say like for me, I started at it like I've been doing sound for about 10 years. So the inspiration for me to get started at it was through Rebellious Jukebox in Letterkenny, which used to put on punk gigs in town. And they ran a punk festival in outside of Letterkenny 2 years in '08 and '09, I think it was, if not '09, '10. Mary and Oisin put on gigs there, and the little known at the time, Sleaford Mods played at one of their festivals. They were known to nobody at the time, and now a major international act. They had The Beat, they had The Selector, they had all these sort of big names at the time. And they were a big influence on me and what I do. So myself and two other guys, it was three guys at the time actually. Rob Mulhern from Tua, who's another of my favorite bands in Ireland. He's from Gweedore, and they're partly a Galway band, partly a Letterkenny band, I think, over the years. But him and Aaron McGee runs White Crow Media, and Stephen McLean, the four of us started up Disturbance. And it just kind of went from underground bands to major bands within the space of a year or two, because we had some great Irish bands, like Slouch and Junk Drawer and Cherem and these sort of bands at the start, and we're really happy with that. It was underground Irish music. It was Irish music at its best, really. And we decided one day to go with something different. So it's literally my favorite moment in music. Of all the things I've ever done, playing music, sound, anything, deciding one day to book Wheatus for Letterkenny at an underground sort of Irish rock gig was just totally different for us. And it started as a joke, saying, we're booking, grunge bands, and we're booking shoegaze and rock and punk. Why don't we do something stupid for a change and, book, a band that I suppose were a one-hit wonder, if not a two-hit wonder. And Aaron there decided, sure, I'll just shoot off an email to them and see what happens. And we just happened.
That's amazing, because you wouldn't really think that something like that could happen. You're like, Wheatus are really big. They're a huge part of your teenage years. They're a huge part of everyone's kind of teenage psyche. Everyone's like, oh, Wheatus, teenage dirtbag. Yeah, I'm into this. And you're like, oh, I'm taking a huge risk because it's going to be a big price. And then you managed to pull it off. So tell me how you pulled it off.
It started with a random email saying, is this possible? Can you come here? We know you're in Ireland. And they're like, yeah, sure. Look, if you can give us the money. It was big money at the time, but I won't go into specifics. But we says, how are we going to do this? We're never going to pay for this. And we are blessed with the venue that we run out of in Letterkenny. Number 58 is through the Central Bar Complex in Letterkenny. And the owner, Mark, has just been an absolute saint to us since we started. And he says, look, you want to book Wheatus? I'll pay for it, and we'll work on it that way. And we're like, but this is not cheap. And he's like, look, it's a major band. Let's push the venue a bit. And he's been behind us from day one. So he says, look, let's see what we can do. And in November of 2018, Wheatus came to Letterkenny, and we filled 250 capacity venue, and it was really strange, because them walking in the door and you're just kind of setting up speakers and stuff and setting up the stage, and the next thing we just come walking in the door. They're massive tour buses outside with their huge trailer full of equipment, and they come up the stairs with all their gear, and they're shaking hands here. I'm just thinking to myself, I watched you on Kerrang when I was 15 years of age, and now you're standing in front of me and ordering burritos from the local burrito loco, which is the best burrito emporium in Ireland. Burrito Loco plug. The next thing I said, Wheatus are there in front of you. You're standing there chatting to them. They do their sound check, and they're like, "What's there to do around here?" I'm like, "Well, we can go downstairs and play darts or something." I'm like, "Yeah, and you're standing there with like Wheatus tour crew playing darts and drinking pints, and they're just the soundest bunch of people. It was just phenomenal. It was just a fantastic experience. And I had to drive to Dublin at 8 o'clock the next morning for work at the time, and I couldn't get drunk with them, but I was just sitting there going, like, sipping on a pint of Guinness, going, this is a really surreal experience. And it blossomed from that, said booking that sort of thing, and then booking the first ladies of heavy metal girls' school to play our festival last year, to booking XSLF, which was two members of Stiff Little Fingers, booking Pat McManus, which is Irish rock royalty. And we had big plans for this year, but we'll forget about that for now. But it's just been an incredible experience being a part of it.
That's incredible. I love hearing stories like that because they're really inspiring. You know what I mean? It's like, if you just take the chances, they might actually pay off. It's okay to dream with your eyes open. It's completely fine to just pursue whatever you're looking for. So fair play to you. Like, that's just incredible. The next question is a question I asked everyone. What was the first song you fell in love with? Because that is your gateway drug into rock and roll, in my opinion.
Jeez. I could tell many stories. I couldn't tell you like early memories of music. It was like my early memories of music are really stupid. Like 90s dance music. What do you call that song? Flat Beat by Mr. Wizzo. That one. That's my, like, what is it, 10-year-old me going, this is the pinnacle of music, nothing will get better than this. But then I guess getting into teenage years, Metallica, I listened to nothing but Metallica for about 4 years solid, to the point where like people were saying to me, can you try and listen to something else for once? It was the S&M album, the live album with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra from 1999, which was just my gateway to Metallica. And I just fell in love instantly then. I was about 13 at the time, and it got me into that, and branched out, as I got older, as I got into later teenage years, into blues and into Rory Gallagher, naturally, as a Donegal man, was the next step for me. And I have a lot to be grateful for, that my drummer through all the early days of Kessler Effect was Mike Warren, and his stepdad he's like they are the band The Tearaways that I'm doing an EP for at the minute. He's introduced me to so much music. He grew up in Wales and London through the 60s and 70s, like, so he's just proper old hippie, like, I feel like he got me into so many different random progressive bands. That where my love of prog music came. He introduced me to bands that like nobody else knew, nobody else had heard of. They were bands that released one album that went nowhere, that he just managed to pick up in a record store in London in 1979 or something like that. I remember I was in college in Athlone in 2008. I think it was 2008, and I was up playing music with them the night before, and he was working in Portlaoise or something the next day, and he says, I'll drive you down to Athlone that night. And I was like, that's cool, yeah. So it was like a 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. He was sitting outside my house in Athlone after driving me down. I was about to get out of the car, and he goes, no, we have to listen to this song first. And it was a 24-minute long live song by a band called Man. And the song was called Spunk Rock, and it's just stuck with me ever since. And it was just mind-blowing. And all I wanted to do was go inside and go to sleep when I got there. But I sat for the entire 24 minutes outside my house with just listening to this song, and neither of us spoke through the whole song. And it was just a mind-blowing experience that will stay with me for the rest of my life. And the album, the only album I know of the band, was called Alive, and it was a live album from start to finish by a band called Man, as I said. And the same journey, we'd listened to a band called Steamhammer, and then the big influence on me that we listened to as well was the Groundhogs, which is quality music. It's just, they never hit the mainstream. They never got big. They were just one of those bands. They came out of England in the 70s. They still tour. Well, till recently, anyway. I don't know if they're still touring, but there's a huge influence on me. It was the Groundhogs and Tony McPhee. Just fantastic music, just bridging rock and prog together. And it was just, that's where my love of rock and prog music kind of combined comes from. And that's what I kind of base a lot of my influence on in Kessler Effect.
It's amazing, isn't it, the effect someone can have on you by just sharing music with you. Like you might not realize what a gift it is till afterwards. Like a whole song can impact your life. A whole band can change your mood. Like it's incredible. Just by giving one person a song, like you could inspire so much. So that's incredible that you're able to get that. And even with a 24-minute song in the back of a car, in the side of a car, and you're just both losing yourself to the same thing. It's the same thing we all get when we connect at gigs, you know, that whole sense of community, and everyone's there for the same reason, and the band is feeling it and you're feeling it and you're part of a thing. Music is just so fucking special and magic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it has that way of connecting people. Like for all my sins of listening to Metallica and Iron Maiden and Slayer and stuff when I was a teenager, mainstream bands, I don't listen to a lot of that stuff anymore. I still listen to Metallica because they're still, at the end of the day, they are still my biggest influence, Metallica, because that's what got me into music, I suppose, of that genre. But like for the last 6 or 7 years, especially the last 3 years since we started the Disturbance, I listen to more Irish bands than anyone. I waited for the last 2 years for a specific release, and I was delighted that it came out a couple of weeks ago. It was Junk Drawer's new album. Junk Drawer from Belfast are easily one of the best bands in Ireland, and they don't get the recognition that they deserve, because it's phenomenal music. It's just absolutely incredible. I definitely would urge everyone to check them out. As Junk Drawer, it's just absolutely class. From bands like that there to, as I said, Tua. I know, yeah, like one of my best mates is the lead singer of Tua, but they are an incredible band. It's just taken shoegaze to a whole new level in Ireland. It's like the next level of My Bloody Valentine, really. It's fantastic to see it, and bands like that there. And as I said, all the bands we've seen coming through the doors of Disturbance over the years, there's just been some serious talent, and that's the kind of stuff I listen to now. Like even my Spotify playlists are full of Irish bands. They're full of local bands. I stick on random playlists that are just random progressive bands from across the world, but I don't find myself listening to big bands anymore. I go and see them the odd time, but I prefer to go to a local show with 50 people than stand in front of 50,000 and not see the band on the stage.
I would the same as you, not just because financially I can't afford it, which I can't, but I can only go to so many gigs, so I try to go and hit the underground as much as possible, not just because it's effectively my job, but because that's where my love lies. Like, I love to watch a band grow just before they're about to break. I love to see the potential to, like, someone starting off, we didn't all end up like headliners straight away. Everyone had to work their way up. So when you're not going to see the support acts, for instance, that's a huge bone I have to pick with people. Like, if you're going to see your favorite band and you're not there to see the support act, you're missing out on the chance to discover another band that you love, because they're not going to pick a band they don't think is good. Like, and if you love them, you really should be going to the support acts. But more than that, yeah, local gigs and underground gigs and traveling to see bands that are not of massive caliber, you get something a lot more special, because it's not this big clinical crowd of people with sound that may or may not be engineered correctly to something that off by heart and you can get anywhere. Whereas you're going to like a lower band, like I say lower, but I just mean a lower audienced band, right? So you don't have the same reach is what I actually mean, instead of everyone coming up at me and going, they're not a lower band, because they're not. We have so much Irish talent, like the caliber in Ireland, like the talent in Ireland, and the fact that so few of us, like obviously it's kind of what we do, so we'd know a lot of bands, but so few other people out there are even aware of the beautiful music that's being made here, so it is important for people like us to be pushing for these bands, because they are amazing. I had never ever heard about Junk Drawers. I'm really looking forward to go looking for them. And Tua, again, a new discovery, and I love shoegaze, so that's exactly what I'm going to find later when you send me the links.
Oh yeah, of course. I'll send you like I will inundate you with music Ireland. I think at this stage, the it's, like when we put together our festival last year, we asked for submissions from bands all across Ireland, and the the level of submission that came in was incredible. Like we had for 25 spaces in our festival, 5 of which were pre-booked. So we had 20 spaces to pick from for all these submissions. There was 77 submissions or something from bands. How are we going to whittle this down? And some of the bands we had to turn down were just, we're like, how can we say no to a band like that? You know, it was crazy. And then there was other bands that we know that just didn't apply, that for one reason or another, whatever, they couldn't make it, or the dates didn't suit them, or but as I said, the list that we put together, we looked at it there the other day. We had a meeting about what we're going to do with the lockdown, what we're going to do with disturbance now that we're effectively not going to have music for the next guts of a year. That what are we going to do? So we looked back through all the bands that have played at the festival, and we're like, that was an incredible list of artists, you know, and some of them don't even exist anymore, like a year later. But you know, to have that caliber of band in Ireland, there's another one for you, Wild Rocket. They're based in Dublin, Space Rock. It's just like that. That'll blow your mind. It's one of my favorite albums that's been released in Ireland in the last 10 years. Is Wild Rocket's Geomagnetic Hallucinations. That's one for you. It's a tongue
That's
twister.
definitely a mouthful, Nigel.
They're incredible band, and you know the level of, as you can keep going on and on about it. The level of music in Ireland is phenomenal at the minute. It's fantastic, and more people need to see this. More people need to get out and go to these shows. That's the be all and end all of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could pay €110 to go to a gig in like the Three Arena, or you could effectively go to 10 gigs in your local, like, and actually discover bands that will eventually most likely end up in the Three Arena if you start supporting them now. So you'll be able to go, I saw them before they were big.
Well, that's the thing, because I'll go back to the band I mentioned, Cherem from Derry. They're 3 girls playing like pop punk, if you like.
No, they're amazing. I love them. I actually love them.
They're fantastic. But they were one of our very first bookings, and it was one of their very first shows at the time. So like I'm looking at them now saying, we booked you when you were like, you know, 3 teenagers coming to Letterkenny that nobody knew, nobody had ever heard of, and they were playing like their second gig or something at the time. And now I look at them being played on Today FM and, you know, hitting national airwaves. I'm proud of you guys, you know.
No, it's incredible. It's incredible to watch. Like, it's beautiful to watch, to know that when you see someone that's really talented, you know everyone just hasn't seen it yet. And then that magic gets discovered by everyone, and you feel like you've got like these superpowers that allow you to see like music for what it really is. But it does take people supporting the scene, and it does take people going to gigs and giving people a chance, because a big part of being a performer is being able to perform. So for you to actually hone that skill and learn how to appeal to a crowd, and practice even your songs better, get everything down so that you feel tighter as a group and get the songs to be exactly what they need to do, you need to be performing. So
that's it really, because like between playing music and hosting music, I've seen it all. Like I've seen crowds of, you know, 100 people in to watch 3 local bands. We had it there at Christmas. So we had a Christmas show with 3 bands from Donegal. We had Owlboy, we had Sheerbuzz, and Happy Out. 3 cracking young bands. Well, Owlboy would be delighted to hear themselves referred to as young band. The crowd on the night, there was, I think it was 130 or 140 people paid in on the night, which was fantastic for a local show. But you could go a year earlier and 3 local bands, and there could be 30 people there. And it's normal. Like that's the joys of it. I remember playing a festival in Leitrim about 7 or 8 years ago in front of 2 people, one of which was the barman. And that was you know, that's just the joys of it. That's what you got to do. You got to still perform. You still got to put on your best face and get out there and do it, like, because there's no point in, you know, moaning about it or being miserable about it, because those two people might know someone who might know someone who might know someone, and you just never know who's listening to you. And that's my mantra in music, like, is you just never know who is listening. You know, whether that's me playing or that's me doing sound or that's me doing whatever, you never know where that next gig is going to lead you. So that's it.
You don't. All it takes is one person. Like, people are not given like community radios enough or online radios, but all it takes is one person, the right person at the right time, and your whole entire life has changed forever. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm going to leave you with one more question before we go. What is the first thing you were going to do when you get out of lockdown?
Probably the same as everyone else, and have a real pint. I would like to go and see some friends. You know, everyone chats about, I'm going to go to the beach, or I'm going to go get drunk in the pub, or I'm going to do this. I just want to go and see some friends and family, you know, because it's been 8 weeks. I chatted to my parents outside the window one day when I was there, but I haven't gone in and, you know, sat down in the kitchen, had a cup of tea with my mum. And I would like to do that. You know, I haven't gone and just, you know, chilled out with a couple of friends, had a coffee with some friends. I haven't done that sort of thing, and I would just like to do that. You know, I'd like to take my kids to the beach. I would like to get out and do something as a family within, you know, outside of the 2 km radius. I would like to be able to just do normal things that, you know, that we take for granted.
Yeah, that's a fine answer, Nigel. Now, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to add to the interview?
I'd like to add that I am immensely proud of what you are doing. That is fantastic, and it's something, a resource that Irish music really needs, is more of this sort of thing. You know, I wish I had the balls to do this sort of stuff myself, but you know, I couldn't put it together. And I think it's fantastic, and I think more people need to be seeing this sort of thing, as well as more going to gigs. Especially during this lockdown, we need as much content as possible, and this sort of thing is fantastic. And I just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing.
That is so sweet. I actually feel a bit weird. Thank you so much. Right, I'll stop recording and I can get weird with you off camera.